This is James Lupton, delighted to be joined with Nathaniel Wood. Mate, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. How are you?
Good stuff. Yeah, very well, thank you. I wanted to get you on today just to talk a little bit about the UFC card coming out this weekend. You were due to fight on it. Unfortunately, due to
Yes.
injury, you had to pull out. Just first of all, let's start there and talk to me about the frustrations and even the dark times of dealing with injuries.
Mate, it sucks, man. Honestly, I feel like I'm used to it now, but you can never beat that feeling of, oh, you got to sit on the sidelines again. And especially when it's my hometown in London. So, obviously I had about a 2 year layoff with just constant injuries back and back with the hand. My hand, I had issues with it, then got better, then I broke it again. And last year was a great year. I got back to obviously winning ways. I had two good wins, and now I'm injured again. But luckily this time it's nothing too severe. It was more superficial. So it just meant basically a month out. I'm slowly getting back into the gym now. Um, and to be honest, I'm reckon I'm good to go now as normal fight camp. My coaches are still a little bit like, Nath, like take it easy because I have the habit of coming back too soon and getting hurt again. So yeah, I'm hoping to be back in there fighting in the next few months, mate, and get back to this little win streak and start working my way up the division.
Does it make it worse that it is the London card or the UK card?
It sucks, man. Obviously to not be on my London card, and I'm the only London fighter in the UFC. Your hometown, but it's a great card. So I'm still going. I'm still looking forward to the fights, but yeah, it's going to be bittersweet watching them.
Definitely. At the time you put on your Instagram, you're gonna have to sit down and think things through. What do you mean by that? How sort of did you ever think? Can you continue? Is it a case of coming back, like I mentioned, too soon potentially? What was it? Did you do so, and what was the outcome?
So the few things I've got to think about is, so for me, it's straight after I'm done with this, man. Because this sport is the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows, and I just feel like the lows are constant, man. It's constant injuries, it's constant issues going on, and part of me was like, I might just be done with this. But the next day I wake up, I'm like, man, how can I be done with this? I love it so much. So yeah, I was just being shitty because I was in down in the dumps, Um, but there's certain things I've got to think about during my fight camps. Sometimes my training and my sparring is way too intense because I'm getting injured all the time. Do you know what I mean? A lot of my injuries don't come from the fights; they come from the sparring and the training. And obviously, I train very hard, and I've got a great team around me. So I think now we're just going to sit back and make a little bit of a plan of let's try and stay protected a little bit, even silly little things like, okay, put a head guard on, not because I'm worried about the brain getting injured, but it's for cuts. If you're 2 weeks out from a fight and I split my eyebrow, I've done it before. I split my whole head up here 2 weeks before a fight, but no one knew because I had my hair and went and got staples in, and the staples were out a week before the fight, luckily. And luckily, it didn't open up in the fight, but things like that could be avoided. And I just need to look at myself now more as a business, maybe, because you don't fight, you don't get paid. So, obviously the missus weren't very happy when I told her we weren't getting paid for that one, especially with a wedding coming up. So, yeah, I've got to start being a little bit smarter now with my training. And man, I can't afford to keep getting injured because this sport don't last forever, and I'm not getting any younger. So, yeah, I need to be a bit more sensible.
I bet the telling off from the missus probably hurt more than the injury itself.
Yeah, I was a bit more scared. I was more scared to go home than I was going to the gym. So yeah, I was in trouble.
It's meant to be Leroy Murphy. I know you want to still face Leroy Murphy. Do you want that next, or does it have to be a UK card?
Da, 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 da. So I don't mind. I don't mind really who I fight as long as I'm fighting. But I do want that fight. I think it's a great matchup for me. And we've had a bit of back and forth, and I'm like, right, we need to see who the better one is. We're agreeing to disagree, but like, yeah, let's see who the better featherweight is out of UK out of us two. And yeah, it's an exciting matchup. Obviously, the guy he's just been matched with, it's his debut. So I'm hoping that Leroy wins. And even when he wins, that's not really a win that he can turn around and say, "Ah, oh, Nath, I need to go and fight better people. You know, I saw an interview before where he was saying that once he beats his next opponent, he's going to be ranked, and then he's going to be too far above me to fight me. I'm like, man, you can't with a debut guy. Come on, you know, I just beat Charles Jourdain, who people were saying beat Shane Burgos, who was ranked 14th, and you know, I walked through it like there's no issues whatsoever. So, you know, even with a good win against this opponent, you know, I still think Leroy's surely around the similar ranking as me. You know, hopefully we can get that fight on, and yeah. So fingers crossed he gets the win, because if he doesn't get the win on Saturday, I don't want to fight him anymore. So yeah.
Absolutely. And obviously, we mentioned you had, back 2 wins since moving up to, division. Obviously, this little hiccup, but you're hopefully back in again, like I said, ready to go in a few months' time. How much are you enjoying it, the sport again, since you've come back?
So obviously, getting last year was amazing. You know, obviously I had that fight that got the guy pulled out the day before. That was another lowest of the lows, but luckily I still got paid for that. So, you know, that obviously was a bit of a pick me up. But, you know, it's a blessing in disguise. It meant I could go up a weight, and now I've gone up a weight, mate. I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it. You know, before, when they say, when do you want to fight, Nath? It's like, oh, when do I need to cut weight? How long have I got? And I don't have to worry about that now. You know, I do have to cut weight, of course, but I need a month, if that. And that feels good. You know, I can still eat good. You know, I do eat healthy still, but you know, if the missus wants a Nando's, we can go for Nando's during fight camp. That's amazing. You know, before I was starting to hate the fight camps because of the weight cuts, and now that's gone. You know, I'm and obviously on a 2-win streak at the new weight division, and you know, obviously won them fights in good fashion. So, you know, I'm on a bit of a high at the moment. I just need to get rid of these shitty injuries and, you know, do what I'm supposed to do, and let's fight.
Absolutely. People watching my channel who've seen the channel before will know I predominantly interview boxers, and we know
Yeah.
weight cuts with boxers is a lot different to weight cuts with MMA and UFC fighters. It seems a lot more savage in MMA and UFC, especially. We see a lot of people, the saunas, etc., just to really get rid of that weight cut. Maybe it's more publicised. Maybe it's something that we don't see in this, social media and the public eye and boxer side of things. But in terms of, you mentioned that, not having to worry about such a severe weight cut for yourself now, how much
Yeah.
difference that make to your camp and to your mental state as well, and your well-being and your happiness?
Oh, mate, it makes the world of difference. Now my fight camps can actually be about my opponents, whereas before all it was cut weight. You know, I'd go to the gym, my coach would be trying to teach me something about my opponent, and all I'm thinking of is how many calories am I burning right now. So yeah, in regards to that, it's helped massively, and just the mental state. You know, the saying is, if you're a happy fighter, it's a dangerous fighter, and man, you know, all I need to focus now is my fight, and I get to refuel properly how an athlete is supposed to. You know, an athlete's not supposed to be burning 2,000 calories a day and only eating 1,500. You know, you need to be replenished and get the carbs back in, get the protein in, and that's what I'm able to do now. You know, 2 weeks out is when I really start tapering down, but at that point, you know, you're very close to the fight and you don't necessarily have to worry as much. But yeah, you know, the whole fight camp up until that point now is just purely focused on being the best athlete I can be, and you know, obviously smashing the guy that I've been matched up with.
Have you ever had that in your career before, where you've been able to just focus on that and not have to worry about, like you say, a happy fighter, dangerous fighter, etc.? Have you ever felt this good before?
No, never. My first semi-pro fights back 12 years ago. You know, obviously for them, I never really cut weight. I think the weigh-ins were on the day though. So, you know, back then, obviously it was more just like play fighting, you know, oh yeah, let's just get a fight now. It's like, this is my living, you know. But yeah, I've never been able to do it before. It's always been about weight cut, and the whole fight camp is a drain. You know, you're drained, you're depleting yourself, and obviously I love it. But now that I'm able to properly replenish myself, I love it even more. So yeah, you know, as I say, I'm not getting any younger, and you know, the next couple of years now, I'm looking to make a tear in this division, and you know, get myself a shot at gold one day.
Absolutely. I just want to run through a little bit of the card coming up the weekend.
Yeah.
Edwards versus Usman 3. It's the trilogy fight. It's one apiece currently. Just looking back on the last fight, first of all, obviously Edwards got his stoppage. Was it a shock to you?
Obviously, to get it that late, it was like, wow, he pulled that one out the bag. But, I think now it's going to be a lot different because Kamaru Usman's obviously, he's got that chink in the armor, because now he's realized, oh, I'm not invincible. I got knocked out and, he got knocked out. So I feel like that once a champion has that kind of knockdown or knockout, if you like, I think it can change them. So I feel like Leon Edwards is going to come in definitely with the advantage this time. I think he's going to be in his head a little bit for this one. And obviously, it's his hometown. He hasn't had to deal with jet lag or altitude differences or anything like that. So I think Leon Edwards is going to get the win. I think people are still thinking Kamaru Usman's going to come in as the favourite and, he's going to get the job done. But I think Edwards is going to do it. So I'm thinking a TKO win in the third or fourth round after a similar kind of knockdown as last time. But, he's going to struggle to outdo that one. But, yeah, I'm going with my boy Leon Edwards. And it's MMA, though, isn't it? So anything can happen. But, I think Kamaru Usman's going to be mentally not in the same place as he was before.
Come on to my next question. When I said that, you mentioned the mental state and the mindset of Usman before that the second fight, I should say. He was on a 19-fight win streak. I'm sure he felt invincible.
Mm-hmm.
How much of a dent will that put in his mentality heading into this fight now?
I think a huge dent. I remember my coach, Brad Pickett, saying that the first time he ever got knocked out was that chink in the armor where you're like, oh shit, I'm not invincible. And then the next fight, you're going in there with the intentions of, oh, I can't get hit. You're not as comfortable. You're not flowing as much as you normally flow. And I think that will affect him. He was the pound for pound, they were saying. And he got knocked out cold. So, I do think that changes fighters. Sometimes it can obviously change them for the better. It depends on what way he looks at it. But I think Leon Edwards is going to be coming in with that advantage now, knowing that, okay, this guy isn't invincible. I knocked him out cold last time. Now he's got the home crowd there. He hasn't got to deal with jet lag, any of that sort of stuff. I think he's definitely walking in there with the advantage. And, fingers crossed he can pull the job off because obviously I'm rooting for him, and we will see come Saturday night.
Absolutely. And at the moment, Leon is still a 2-1 underdog with the bookies, even though he's a champion and after the last fight. Do you think it's still fair, with Usman's sort of background record, etc.?
So I can see why. Obviously, I think a lot of people are going to say, he got lucky and that was it. But I don't think the bookies are going to be looking at it as the way I'm looking at it, with the mental side of things and the jet lag and all these other little differences that come into play. But yeah, mate, it's a tough fight. Obviously they're two very, very talented guys, and before that last fight, Kamaru Usman was ranked pound for pound #1 in the world. So if you take the things that I'm talking about away, then I can see why they put him as a favourite.
Another name on the card this weekend, Mohamed Mokaev. Just how good could this guy be?
So I've trained with Mocek a few times, and yeah, the kid's very good. In regards to the flyweight division, I don't know how good the division is. So I don't think there's as many hard fights in there as there are in bantamweight and featherweight. So I think he can go very far in the sport, and I think he's already ranked like 11th, and he's only had 4 fights in the UFC. So if he gets obviously this win on Saturday night, I think he's going to be ranked in the top 10, and maybe next year, a title shot. So, I haven't trained with him for a while, so I can only imagine that he's training hard and he's got the right people around him, and fingers crossed for the guy.
I've not gone into too much detail on the rest of the card. I wanted to ask you, what fight are you looking forward to the most outside of the main event, etc.?
So I'm going to go with Lerrone's fight because obviously I've got my eyes on that. Obviously the co-main event, that's going to be one hell of a scrap. And yeah, that's about. To be honest, like the UK guys, obviously I've got my eyes on Jack Shaw's fight, Lerrone's fight. Obviously watching Mokaev, supporting them, and it's going to be bittersweet watching them though, man, because Last time, the last London card, when the guy pulled out, it was the same thing. You know, I was happy for the guys, but I was also sitting there a bit bitter and jealous. You know, I'm like, man, I should be on this card. So yeah, it's going to be bittersweet watching it. That's for sure.
Do you think it'd be easier this time because one, you've done it once already, and obviously last time, like you say, it was like the day before of the
Yeah.
fight. It's a little bit more
Uh,
this time.
I don't know. I don't know. Because this one I didn't get paid. You know, last time I got paid still. So, you know, when I went to the fights, I was still a little bit like, okay, you know, I still got paid. But now I haven't, you know, it's going to be like, man, you know, I needed that money. I got a wedding to pay for. So, yeah, it's going to be tough. But I'm used to it. You know, I'm used to these pullouts. I'm like I think I might change my nickname to the unluckiest or something like that because, you know, I'm not having much luck in the last couple of years.
It'll come. It'll come. I want to mention John Jones, the best ever.
Mate, I've been saying he's the GOAT for ages. I was never in doubt that he wasn't going to win that fight. And the proof's in the pudding, man. You know, greatest of all time. Maybe not the best human being. You know, I know there's a lot of controversy because of the way he is outside of the cage. But forget that. In that octagon, you know, he is the greatest of all time.
And just the last question from me, Nath. What's your thoughts on MMA fighters switching over to boxing? So we've seen a few fight Jake Paul in the boxing
Mm-hmm.
ring. Now, I know you've trained yourself in boxing. Obviously, everyone does with a striking, etc. I think you've worked with Angel Fernandez previously.
Yeah.
What type of MMA guys switching and crossover in between the sports?
So the thing that annoys me is Jake Paul always gets the guys that are rubbish on their way out. Well, sorry, not rubbish, because Anderson Silva's a great, you know, he's an absolute, you know, stud. However, Jake Paul fought him when he's like in his late 40s. Ben Askren, a wrestler, you know, when he's retiring, Tyrone Woodley, when he's retiring, you know, fight someone that's in their prime. You know, that would be interesting. You know, if the UFC was to say to someone, hey, look, you know, we're going to give you a little freeze in the contract, go beat up this guy for us and then come back. But yeah, I get why people are doing it. You know, boxing, obviously, there's a lot of money in there. You know, hell, I wouldn't say no to a boxing fight. You know, my passion's MMA. But if someone was going to say to me, I'm going to pay you a lot of money to do half of the stuff that you do anyway, hell yeah. You know, I look at a lot of boxers and I think, yeah, I could have a go at this easily. But, you know, I'm never going to sit there and say online, hey, I'm desperate for this fight, you know, because let's be honest, most people doing it for the money. If anything, I'd rather do a bare knuckle fight. You know, I really want to do bare knuckle boxing, but um, my hands, I don't know if my hands are up for it, man, because honestly, they're mangled, mate. You know, my hands they're not doing too well. So, yeah, who knows what the future holds, mate. But I wouldn't say I'm against it. I can't say I'm with the YouTube thing. The YouTube boxing is a bit getting on my nerves a little bit, if I'm honest. You know, it's tarnishing the sport a little bit. I'm all for it with, you know, some like the KSI Logan Paul. Yeah, cool, you know. But now it's a little bit of a joke, I think. And I think it's tarnishing and boxing as a sport itself.
What do you make of there's talks of the Ngannou Tyson Fury sort of hybrid boxing slash MMA sort of fight? I can't remember what all the stipulations were, but it was like in a ring with smaller gloves, etc. Would something like that work in terms of the crossover between the two sports?
Yeah, so I like it. I'm going to watch it, but I don't want to see it all the time. Do you know what I mean? So, like, for example, the Mayweather McGregor fight, it was like, wow, you know, everyone knew Mayweather was going to win, but it was exciting. It was like, this hasn't been done before. And now it's just like, it's happening every other weekend. It's the same with the YouTube things. You know, all these YouTubers are fighting each other. And you got like these, I think there's a porn star who's doing boxing now. And it's just like, oh, come on, man, it's getting cringy, you know, and especially when they can't fight. So, you know, I'm all for it when they are athletes and they're good at the sport, but when you're paying millions of pounds for a TikTok star or something like that, you know, I can't deal with it. But yeah, Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury, you know, I'm going to watch it. So, you know, I can't say I'm against it. So yeah, good luck to him, man. And imagine if Francis Ngannou caught Tyson Fury, knocked him out. You know, that would be that would be crazy. So yeah, I would definitely be tuning in. So I'm not going to say that I'm against it.
Who would you back if that were to happen out of interest in Ngannou Fury?
Say that again, sorry.
Who would you back if it was to happen in Ngannou Fury?
Are we talking MMA gloves?
Yeah, I think that's what we're saying. MMA gloves in the boxing ring.
I think Francis Ngannou in MMA gloves is different, man. It's so different fighting in MMA gloves when even just in sparring with the 8 ounce MMA gloves, it's completely different. You can't protect your face like you would. But man, it's Tyson Fury, isn't it? So um, I don't know. It would obviously be Tyson Fury winning unless Francis Ngannou knocks him out. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a tough one. Make it bare knuckle. Let's make it bare knuckle. It'll be even more interesting.
Absolutely. Well, no, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, mate. I appreciate your time as well.